Hi everybody, welcome to the introduction for lesson 7 of literature. Now I know that these passages can be quite difficult, but let's have a look together. And today's lesson will be focusing on drawing conclusions. And this is a really useful skill, whether you're doing a social exam or an RLA exam or even a science exam. Drawing a conclusion is a skill that you're going to need in almost every area of your study. So let's do it together. So the main skill that we look at in lesson 7 is how to draw a conclusion. And you can think of a conclusion as being something that ties everything else together. In some ways, it's quite similar to the main idea. You don't want a conclusion that's too narrow or too broad. And you're trying to include all the other information. You're trying to unify all the other information. For example, if you were doing a scientific experiment, you would gather many facts, and at the end, you need to explain how all this information relates to each other. So you make a conclusion. You make a statement that links everything else together. But we make conclusions every day in our normal life. For example, imagine that today you woke up late and you came to class late. Then tonight you set your alarm and tomorrow morning you wake up early and you go to class on time. You might conclude that going to bed early and setting an alarm will help you to wake up on time, or going to bed late would be dangerous for your education. You make a conclusion, you make a statement based on the factual information that you have available. So when we're trying to make a conclusion, what we need to do is look at the details and find something that joins them together that is not too broad and not too narrow. Let's have a look at just a few examples together. So pause the recording now and try to answer this question. Which of the following conclusions does this excerpt support? A. Intense exercise is the most popular form of exercise among women today. Intense exercise is good for everyone. Or intense exercise has several benefits for women. Notice that answer A talks about women and answer C talks about women, but answer B talks about everyone. Possibly answer B will be too broad if the whole passage is about women. Possibly. We have to start thinking like that. When we read a question and look at the possible answers, if we start to analyze what might be right or wrong in the answers, we can start to remove some of the wrong ones, and then we have more chance to guess the correct answer. So perhaps we should give a hand to Linda Hamilton's arms. After the Terminator 2 actress unveiled her buff biceps 8 years ago, more and more women ventured where none dared go before, embracing weightlifting, boxing, rock climbing, martial arts, and almost every other form of vigorous exercise once known only to man. So after this female actress played a role in Terminator 2, women began to do a lot more physical exercise. There is no gender difference in working out anymore, says Radu, a New York City trainer whose clients include Cindy Crawford. That's another actress or singer. It's not just about vanity, although the possibility of banishing cellulite forever is certainly part of the lure of extreme exercise. Intense workouts also head off osteoporosis, which is a bone disease, and depression, which is a mental disease, and build self-esteem, says Dr. Miriam Nelson, author of Strong Women Stay Young. The whole mind-body connection is really there, and that's the lift that comes from knowing that whatever he can do, you can do better. So this whole passage is talking to women, so it's not going to be answer B. Is it the most popular form of exercise? Well, it doesn't say it's the most popular. It says there are many different exercises that have grown in popularity, but it does not say that it is the most popular. but there are benefits, physical benefits, mental benefits. So there are several benefits for women. The correct answer would be C. Let's move on to this next passage. Again, pause the recording and try to answer this question before we look at it together. Well, which of the following is a conclusion that can be drawn from the excerpt? Collins is the promoter of Armstrong's show. Armstrong and Collins often argue publicly. A couple of key words there, often and publicly. C, Collins handles Armstrong's money. Or D, Collins is one of Armstrong's biggest fans. A promoter is working, handling money is working, being a fan is not working. So A and C are talking about a job, a business relationship. B is talking about a problem in their relationship, arguing often. And the last one is about being a fan. So we should be thinking about that as we go through the passage. Here was this man, Louis Armstrong, just before the show was due to start, waiting silently. He was smartly dressed in dinner jacket and holding his Selma trumpet. The band was ready. There had been no rehearsal, and he was about to perform. Then Collins suddenly said, "Where's the dough? If I don't get the dough, Louis don't play." Dough means money. So Collins says, if I don't get the money, Louis will not play. Louis is a musician. The promoter had a huge crowd and there was no problem. The promoter had a crowd. So Collins is talking to the promoter. Collins is not the promoter of the show. The man that he is talking to is the promoter. And this is not about being a fan. This is about a business relationship. So it's not going to be answer D either. He offered a check, but Collins was adamant. No cash, no Louis. It must have been humiliating for Louis, though he showed no signs of it. He just looked at the floor and went on swinging his trumpet in his hand until such time as matters were settled. He seemed utterly detached as this pasty-faced man with a cigar in his mouth demanded the money there and then, or no show. I estimate they had some 2,000 people in there, and the promoter went to the box office and came back with several bags of half-crowns, of silver anyway, and put them down in front of Collins. "There's your money," he told Collins, and I remember thinking, he doesn't know how to count it. So the money is given to Collins. Collins is not the artist. Collins is the manager of the artist. He is handling the money. The money is given to Collins. We don't know if Armstrong and Collins often argue. In fact, in this passage, Collins is arguing with the promoter, with the person that organized the concert, not with Collins. So there is no evidence that Armstrong and Collins often argue. There is plenty of evidence that Collins controls the money for Armstrong. Question number 2, put a check mark next to each fact that supports this conclusion. The conclusion being that Collins handles Armstrong's money. Have you finished? Well, let's have a look at the answers again. Collins demands payment from the promoter. Collins demands the payment that belongs to Armstrong because Armstrong is the famous musician, but Collins is the one that takes the payment. So that's evidence that Collins deals with the money on behalf of Louis Armstrong. Armstrong waited for the matter to be settled. He did not argue. He did not say, "We can do it later." He allowed Collins to speak on his behalf. He allowed him to demand the money. That suggests that he was happy with the relationship, that Collins had a job to control the money on behalf of Armstrong. C, a crowd came to hear Armstrong play. There is nothing there about money, so C is not correct. And D, the promoter went to his office to get the money, and the money is then given to Collins, and Collins will have to count the money. He will have to check that everything is there. Collins is dealing with the money. So A, B, and D all support that conclusion. For the final question, which of these reasons can you conclude that this scene did not occur in the United States? Choose as many as are relevant. Make sure you pause the recording while you answer this question. Have you finished? Well, A, the word check, which actually is underlined in blue here, is a spelling of check, not used in the United States. C-H-E-C-K is a check in American spelling. C-H-E-Q-U-E is the British spelling. So this is probably going to be in somewhere in the British Empire, maybe in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, and one of those islands. It is not going to be in America because it uses British spelling, not American spelling. B, Collins refused to accept a check, demanding cash. People in America sometimes might want cash. They might not want to tell the government or pay tax, for example. People in other countries might also not want to pay tax. People anywhere in the world might like cash instead of a check. So B is not going to be the right answer. C, the promoter came back with several bags of half crowns of silver. You might not have heard of half crowns before, but you do know that in America they use dollars, and less than a dollar could be a nickel or a dime. They don't use half crowns of silver in America. Again, that suggests to me that it's one of the Caribbean islands like Jamaica or Barbados. It's not going to be in America. So C is evidence for the conclusion that this is not happening in the United States. D, the band had not rehearsed. Again, that could happen anywhere, like answer B. It might be that Louis Armstrong didn't like rehearsing, and so if he played in America or if he played overseas, he did not want to rehearse. We don't know, but there's nothing about the location there. The last one, the speaker thought that Collins did not know how to count the money. Well, the book says that is an answer. I'm not really sure why, but perhaps because they are half crowns. Collins, being American, would not know how to count them. Maybe that's the answer. Or maybe outside of America, the education is different. I'm not really sure, but A and C definitely because the spelling is British spelling, not American spelling, and because the unit of money is not the dollar. E, if you got that as well, fantastic. If you didn't get that, don't worry too much. It's a very difficult one to answer. Well, that's the end of today's introduction. We are looking at conclusions in this lesson. There is a quiz ready for you on Moodle, so please go there and continue to work. O să lăsai, Codea.